Is Palantir of Orthanc going to make Mono Black Helm a truly viable deck? Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today I'm actually doing some playtesting for someone who's going to be playing a tournament in the not too distant future. Though they didn't ask me, I'm going to keep their name anonymous so that, like 10,000 people don't learn what deck they're going to be playing in the tournament. And essentially what they've asked me to do is find the best build of Mono Black Helm. The combo itself is pretty simple. Control a Leyline of the Void or Dauthi Voidwalker, and then activate Helm of Obedience for 1 mana, and it will go ahead and mill your opponent out, ending in their untimely demise. This is a deck that's been around for a while, but Legacy is in a massive period of flux, hence why the donor reached out to me. And essentially, the debate right now for these mono black decks focuses around the Grief and Reanimate package. This is something that is seeing more and more play in Legacy due to the printing of Troll of Khazad-dûm, which is a land when you need it to be a land, a threat when you need it to be a threat, it is reanimatable, and it imprints under Chrome Mox. So the Mono Black Helm decks are actually splintering at this time. And there's this debate about, like, do you even play Helm in the deck anymore, or do you start going in more of a Mono Black aggro sort of vein and mine that for all it's worth? One of my biggest complaints about the Mono Black Helm deck is that it's often had to play Karn the Great Creator. But I think Palantir of Orthanc exists in a territory where this can be your colorless source of card advantage and dig that also can just randomly dome your opponent for a large amount, as your average converted mana cost is pretty high in your deck, as you're going to be playing cards like Sheoldred and Leyline of the Void and whatnot. So today I'm going to test this card in the Mono Black Helm shell, and we're going to see if this feels better than like the Grief Reanimate Troll scam package that I've played in a couple videos recently. Now, today's video is sponsored by both Moxfield.com as well as Cool Stuff Inc. And if you need paper magic cards, check out Cool Stuff Inc. and use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your order at checkout. So this is the deck list in all of its glory. The primary credit for the deck design goes to Michael Levine. I checked in with him to kind of see what he was doing before recording with this video, and Palantir was his idea. I made some small edits because I don't believe that Takenuma is a playable legacy card. But there's some tech that might be good or might be cute, and playtesting will tell. Force of Despair is an incredible tempo card that can just do absolutely disgusting things. Got a decent amount of hype when it was first printed and then basically never saw play. And then we have like casual EDH staple Baleful Mastery, which for 2 mana can exile a creature or planeswalker and force your opponent to draw a card. And I don't know, maybe we have things in this deck that can take advantage of that. I'm not sure how I feel about these cards, as like the line between Genius and Jank is often pretty small in Legacy. And this is one of those times where I really have to see it for myself. Previously, when I played Sheoldred, I was pretty medium on Baleful Mastery, if memory serves. But Bowmaster comes down much earlier and might change my evaluation of that card. Of note here, as compared to a Grief Reanimate based build, we will probably be a little softer to combo in game 1, and we will probably be better versus grindy decks, your Bant Control, your Hot Bant, that sort of stuff. With that being said, let's battle. Okay, this opening hand just does not have enough mana to be functional. This one does. I think I throw the second Ancient Tomb so that if one of these gets Thoughtseized or countered, I still have a second one. The second Ancient Tomb doesn't really help me cast Sheoldred, as like the black pip is the problem there. The second Ancient Tomb will be nice versus a Wasteland. Basic Island and Ponder. A quick note for the viewer end. I am recording this one after Mind's Desire was unbanned. Probably worth mentioning, as I'll be pushing the release of this video up a little bit, as opposed to my normal release schedule, so that the player can see this video before their tournament. Potted Strand. Oh, sorry, I'm a little froggy this morning. If we are playing against a combo deck, Dauthi Voidwalker is probably my play here, and if this is just a control deck, Palantir into Palantir is probably the way that I want to play this, assuming that the first one gets countered or whatever. So this is a neat card. I'm going to read this full thing here. Beginning of my end step, I put an influence counter on this, and then scry 2. Target opponent may have me draw a card. If they don't, I mill X, where X is the number of influence counters on this, and then they lose life equal to the total mana value of those things. I am going to bin both of those. I 100% bin Agadeem's Awakening. Dark Ritual would actually let me Sheoldred and Dauthi next turn. But if my opponent just takes the damage, it's not actually that good for me. So I think I'm just going to bottom that. Alright, my opponent takes 4, milling a Helm. I will say that that is a better overall result. We'll see if an immediate prismatic ending happens. Volcanic Island. Am I getting show and telled? Narset. That's annoying. This is life loss. Alright. My tech has been neutered. Opposition Agent is a pretty reasonable draw. Probably play that at my opponent's end step. Actually, I don't think that's true. I think I need to play a 4 mana card this turn in hopes of drawing another black land and playing 2 creatures next turn. I think that's the easiest way. Ooh. We're gonna bottom Opposition Agent. Actually, do I put Opposition Agent on top? No, we'll bottom it and we'll top Orcish Bowmasters. My opponent has me draw the card, but that card draw is prevented. Yep, that's fine. So kind of my plan here is to cast an Orcish Bowmaster's ping Narset, and then I can start using the Palantir again for card draw / damage. There's a Shark Typhoon in my opponent's hand now. We Teferiing. We Prismatic Ending-ing. Ooh, 4th Aerlingas. So my opponent is going to become the Monarch. This is a really big moment. If my Orcish Bowmasters resolves here, there's a very good chance that I run away with this game. And if it doesn't, well, I'm probably dead. Nice. All right, so I ping Narset. Now, is it worth 2 life to equip this? I think it is. My mana is really tight right now. And we'll go ahead and move to my end step. Is my opponent going to let me draw a card? Or is this damage? Hard to tell at this stage of the game. Probably draw. I'm gonna bottom both here. Alright, I have gotten a Lotus Petal. Which honestly isn't bad. Notably, my opponent is the Monarch, which means that if Orcish Bowmaster sticks around, I will get to amass and ping them. Feels like Prismatic Ending based on my opponent's hesitation. Yep. And then a Ponder afterwards, so they don't let me amass. They are looking for another Swords to Plowshares, so that my Orc army doesn't get to take the Monarch. Got another land. They're going to get one more look for that Swords to Plowshares. And that's a shuffle. Alright. So. Am I attacking and trading? Probably. I'm actually very removal light in this deck. There's still a flying shark token that I'm going to have to deal with a little bit later. So that's something to keep in mind. I can use Lotus Petal or I can use Dark Ritual this turn. I probably use Lotus Petal so that I don't just kind of telegraph everything. I could Shadow Spear equip Dauthi Voidwalker as well and commit to using both Dark Ritual and Opposition Agent. I think I'm into that. All right. Bottom both of those. All right. The bonus Palantir is not feeling great. All right. Brainstorm occurs. A non-fetch land. I'm not super excited about. All right, my Palantir eats it. That's fine. I have more of them. This is also fine. So at end step, with this trigger on the stack, I will cast Dark Ritual and Opposition Agent. Hopefully this just gets through. This is a regular attack before Thoughtseize. Let's crash in. All right. I am the Monarch, which is hot. I'll now Thoughtseize my opponent. I probably just take Staff of the Storyteller. It represents a body in a way that the other stuff does not. And then we'll take 2 more. Play a second one of these bad boys. This will elicit a will not elicit a Brainstorm as a response. This is interesting to think about. I think I am going to take my regular draw first and use that to inform my Palantir decision. Bottom with those. Nice. So another 4th Aerlingas is one of the biggest things that I'm scared of. Because my opponent can just brainstorm into that, make a bunch of creatures, and then I'm super scared. Alright, there's a dress down. My opponent shuts off Opposition Agent's ability, meaning that they can fetch this turn, which is fine with me. The Mystic Sanctuary is less fine, though. Yeah, because that puts 4th Aerlingas on top. My opponent can now cast another. Well, I am just having a whole lot of trouble getting a read on what my opponent is going to do. How am I beating this 4th Aerlingas that's on top of my opponent's deck? It represents 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 damage. 12 if my opponent has a non-fetch land, which they didn't a minute ago. I can play Helm and try to Palantir my way into a Leyline or Dauthi Voidwalker for a kill next turn. I'm presumably 1 mana off from just being able to mill it. I think I'm going towards playing Helm here. Shark Typhoon is a thing that could happen that would be pretty devastating. It did not happen. Yeah. I think this is play towards combo. Alright. This time I'm going to stack them the opposite way. Yeah. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12. I'm dead. I have no 5-drops in my deck that I can just reveal to dome my opponent. Now my opponent lets me draw that card. I draw another card there. And I'm just short of lethal. I need 1 more turn here. But 4th Aerlingas is just the best, one of the best control finishers ever printed. Yeah, and my Thoughtseize doesn't beat this. Ugh. Maybe that game's winnable if I take Dress down instead of Staff of the Storyteller, but Staff of the Storyteller represents a body that threatens Monarch? I beat 4th Aerlingas, I just don't beat 4th and Shark Typhoon, and my opponent had, like, Brainstorm and Fetched, so I didn't know for sure that they still had the Shark Typhoon. So, how do I feel about Force of Despair here as a pseudo counterspell for 4th Aerlingas specifically? I think I like it. Shadow Spear is probably largely unnecessary. Thoughtseize is okay. I'm kind of looking at that as my cut. I had a higher Chrome Mox and Lotus Petal count, I'd probably cut some of those, but I don't. So I think this is where I'm at. I don't know that I want Pithing Needle. It's fine. This hand's a keep. I think I shove turn 1 Palantir, especially after my opponent mulligans. Because if it is not countered, my opponent probably doesn't have an answer to it until turn 3. I'm just momentarily thinking about whether or not Dark Ritual is better to go under here. I guess I can also YOLO and play both my cards this turn. Yeah. So let's Dark Ritual. I think I cast the Bowmasters first. So let's do this. Ping my opponent. And then cast the Palantir. There's Force of Negation. A little risky of my opponent to not Force of Negation the Dark Ritual. If I just follow up with something like a Sheoldred, that doesn't get answered. A Force plus a natural Swords to Plowshares is the perfect counter to my start, if that's what's about to happen here. Let's ship in. All right. Opponent's at 17. I'll pass the turn. I'll respond. My opponent did not play around Opposition Agent, and it might cost them the game. Narset, Prismatic Ending. Opponent's playing a Blood Moon. Meltdown, Verdict. All right. There's enough singletons in here that I think I have to take a screenshot. My opponent has access to red mana already. I'm going to take a white source out of their deck accordingly. So my opponent can Prismatic Ending away the Orcish Bowmasters, but then there's still just 4 damage a turn as a clock, which is perfectly fine with me. That draw's not great, but let's battle. I have a lot of very strong top decks at this point. We just need to not... Oh man, my Bowmasters. Where's my Bowmasters? Anyway, we just need to dodge my opponent having an untapped land. Nice. No Terminus to worry about. So we get 4 more damage here, bringing my opponent to 9. And it's not like Leyline is amazing here, but since it does shut off some Mystic Sanctuary nonsense, it's probably important to just do that anyway. Oh, okay, my opponent is fully Brainstorm locked. That is great. Yeah. So my opponent is probably effectively dead next turn. What is... Oh, they drew March of Otherworldly Light. Sure. Oh, that's annoying. My opponent only takes 1 here, and fetching is back online. That's very bad. Opponent's still Brainstorm locked. This is the wrong time for that card, but I guess I'm glad to have it. Because, like, my opponent has exactly 2 win conditions in their deck, and this stops one of them. And I mean that literally. There's 2 copies of 4th Aerlingas in my opponent's deck. So let's go ahead and crash in here. I think I just hold Orcish Bowmasters. I don't think I push 1 more damage right now. It's just so strong to respond to a Brainstorm or a Ponder or whatever with this card. All right, so I will now play Orcish Bowmasters with that on the stack. Savage. Now my opponent gets to dig. They found Force of Will. I guess I put my opponent to the test here, right? See if they have a blue card to pitch. Agadeem's Awakening. Black, 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 and 2. Done. Okay. Force of Negation was the other card there. So I'm going to attack Narset, so that if my opponent minuses it, this effect still isn't there. Need to dodge 4th Aerlingas this turn as my opponent's top deck, or Narset card. And I think if I do that, I'm good. Swords to Plowshares is totally fine. Ancient Tomb is a very bad draw. Let's crash in on my opponent. They're at 3. We'll pass the turn. My opponent can remove this token whenever they want, so that's just something that I've got to keep in mind here. Shark Typhoon can be cycled, which would be unfortunate for me. Or wait, hold on. Or sorry. Yeah, no, they said they have Shark Typhoon still. It's really awkward that I have to tap an Ancient Tomb here to hold up black for Force of Despair. But that is what it is. Okay, my opponent's done with me. That's fine. So my opponent is super win condition light. It's just 4th Airlingas and Shark Typhoon. They boarded out Staff of the Storyteller. Pithing Needle on Shark Typhoon is now super attractive. My opponent does have a Meltdown and 4 copies of Prismatic Ending to answer that, but I think that is just too good to not play. I'll junk that copy of Thoughtseize. I also know there's not a Teferi now, which is important information. I am worried about this hand being too slow. Turn 1, tapped Agadeem's Awakening. Turn 2, Urza's Saga, Dark Ritual, Helm. My opponent has their random 1 of Blood Moon. It's very, very bad for me to keep this hand. So very early to have this card. I think I'm going to ship this one. Oh, no. Am I willing to risk it here? I think I am willing to risk it on 6. Because every game where I draw a land in 2 draw steps is just absolutely insane for me. Volk is probably a tell that they have early 4th Aerlingas, which I'm not happy about. We are going to attempt to shut off Shark Typhoon here. Alright. As a Staff of the Storyteller, I'm not going to Force of Despair on a 1/1 token when I have multiple Orcish Bowmasters in hand. Awkward? Not the land that I wanted. It has resolved. We will be going for Orcish Bowmasters here. Go ahead and ping the Spirit token. And pass the turn. Opposition Agent is my planned pitch to Force of Despair a little bit later on. Yeah. I know. Okay. Sure. Oh, that's frustrating. If I play this so that I can Bowmasters, I lose access to a good pitch card for Force of Despair. Yep. And I think I'm supposed to keep Force of Despair over Opposition Agent. I also think I Sorcery Speed this here. I think I am quite behind. And I think I need this extra point of damage. And I also need my opponent to not Brainstorm in response to Orcish Bowmasters. This line is pretty heavily punished if my opponent just casts 4th Aerlingas here. Or Supreme Verdict. This has to be a land. And I'm going to pay the 3 life so that that enters untapped, so I can just hold up Force of Despair. Because it's just so very risky for me to tap out here. Yep. I don't Force of Despair a single token. Despite the fact that it does make me sad. I want to boarded those back in. Just by the way. Okay. If my opponent has 4th Aerlingas in hand, they just cast it that turn. So I am going to hope to dodge for 1 turn and cast this. If my opponent has a counter spell, I need to just eat that anyway, so this can resolve and stop the Haymaker. Am I getting countered? Even if I'm not, 5 cards is a lot of cards at this stage of the game. I am getting countered. Alright. Let's see if I'm dead to 4th Aerlingas. Alright, it's just an attack for 1. That could have been worse. Okay. Sure. This is a land. I'm just too far away on mana for it to be anything else. Part of the problem with 4th Aerlingas right now is that my opponent still will become the Monarch due to that Spirit token. And there's nothing I can do about that. Yikes, deck. Ponder's fine. That's fine. It's less fine if my opponent does actually just have a Shark Typhoon, which they presumably do. Okay, they're just grabbing a Brainstorm. This is kind of a miserable situation, because if I I have to play threats to get on board, but as soon as I play this, I drop Force of Despair, which is the thing that keeps me from dying. All right, there's a cycle on Shark Typhoon. Double triggers that. I think at this point I'm just buried. I just haven't stuck any source of card advantage. I haven't gotten a single Orcish Bowmaster, like, trigger off a card draw. I'm fine with the keep on 6. But, like, my relevant things have just been answered. And my top decks have been pretty meh. Alright. I'm at 13. And life is bad. And again, I keep getting put in these situations where I have to drop Force of Despair. Yeah, not a single card draw based trigger. That's Mystic Sanctuary for Shark Typhoon, which my Dauthi Voidwalker was not able to stop. And the 4th Aerlingas has finally happened. And Chrome Mox is not a black card. I will concede. GG. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com. It's just the best place to keep your online deck lists, and it's also a great tool if you're a competitive tournament player. What I'm showcasing here is its Compare feature. You can take 2 deck lists, plug in links to both of them, and then see which cards are unique to deck list A, which cards are unique to deck list B, and which cards are shared with both of them. And you can do this both with the main deck and the sideboard. If you are looking to fine-tune a deck list, this is a great way to do that. Okay, my hand is definitely a keep, just unquestionably. And then how I play it depends a whole lot on what my opponent does on their turn 1. All right, they're on 6. Dryad Arbor. Well, that makes Orcish Bowmasters on turn 1 super attractive. Imprint Dark Ritual. Play Swamp. Bowmasters Dryad Arbor. Alternatively, I just Dark Ritual, Bowmasters, and Thoughtseize, and then any black card lets me Palantir. That's a little more volatile, but probably better. So Dark Rit. Thoughtseize. Ooh, my opponent does not have another actual mana source right now. I probably take Green Sun because it represents another Dryad Arbor. And Bowboy. King Dryad Arbor. Okay, good game. Bowmaster's good. So in this matchup, I am interested in Plague Engineer and Grafdigger's Cage. Force of Despair is interesting. I'm going to think about that. I don't know if I'm going to play it. Mostly because I like the cards that are in my deck, if I'm just being honest here. Like, some number of Palantirs probably goes. This is not going to be a grindy matchup a lot of the time. Maybe all of them go. I don't want to, like, cut Thoughtseizes or any of the creatures except maybe Sholdred. If I want to board all of these, this is the 7. Force of Despair can be kind of gross when I'm on the draw. Let's try it. Kind of treat this conceptually as my grief for this matchup. Conceptually, it's also possible, I guess, that I could cut Leyline and Helm and try to win via fair creature stuff. Okay. This hand's a keep. It's a little difficult to figure out how to play it. I probably just... Ooh. That one doesn't eat a Bowmasters. Stupid 2/2s. Part of me is tempted to just Force of Despair that, and then play Opposition Agent on my own turn. Follow up with Bowmasters the next turn. Whereas I'm just kind of treating that like a Solitude. Ooh, that's good. That's real good. I will pay the life. I will Dark Ritual. And I believe Opposition Agent is the one that I play here. This stops Green Sun type effects. It stops, like, fetch lands. And I have 2 very good follow-ups to X1 creatures. There's a Dryad Arbor. And an Allosaurus Shepherd. Sure. Bodes well for me. So I'm going to go ahead and attack on in. Get a pretty savage blowout if my opponent does double block. Don't think they will. Yeah, they don't. They'll go to 16. We will Bow Boy and kill Dryad Arbor, as we want to 100% deny the mana here. And then next turn we'll clean up Allosaurus Shepherd and any other 1 toughness elves that my opponent plays. Alright, what you got? Nada. Guess they could have their own Bowmasters. That's not unreasonable. Let's cast this. Yeah, we've gotten the GG from our opponent. They politely kill our Orcish Bowmasters on the way out. GG. All right, I've kept my opening hand here, which starts with half of my combo in play and has a turn 2 Sheoldred, unless I really feel like I need to do a turn 1 Dauthi. That's fine. That has very little impact versus my deck. That makes my Urza Saga bad, but otherwise is not a big deal. Do I need to turn 1 Dauthi? I don't think so. I'd rather turn 2 Sheoldred. A little awkward if I get Chalice on 1 as a follow-up, but that's like not maybe ideal. Yep. Alright. Dark Ritual. 4 mana Sheoldred. This is going to represent so much damage over the course of this game. Yeah, nice. Helm is fantastic. Play the backside of this, which I do not have to pay life for. Crash in for some damage. My opponent to 12. We will just play out a... Oh, I need to tap differently. Play out a Dauthi Voidwalker. Call it a turn. This Sheoldred is doing just so much work here. Yep. Yeah, so my opponent kept what I think of as kind of a classic trap hand. When you have no ability to follow up your lock pieces with a threat, those hands are often mulligans. My opponent may have evaluated that the risk was worth taking on 6, though. So, what do I like for this matchup? My opponent might board out Moons against me, because I don't know whether or not I'm an Urza Saga build. Notably, my swamps are so much better than Takenuma's in this matchup. I don't know whether or not my opponent is on a Karn the Great Creator build, and that changes my evaluation of Helm a lot. Bowmasters is probably pretty medium here. It's something that can trade with something like a Goblin Rabblemaster. I think my life total is under enough of a gun that I don't like this. And I can board in up to a gajillion D removal spells. Yeah, I really don't like Orcish Bowmasters here. My opponent's not going to be drawing cards for the most part. If I do this, I'm a little creature light. It's not like Opposition Agent is insane either. The Opposition Agent is worse. Like this comes down earlier as a blocker. Maybe this is worse. And I do some amount of this nonsense. Intend on winning primarily with Leyline Helm. And make up for just using removal spells by keeping Palantir in. So this hand is just fully like, do I get Blood Mooned? If I don't get Blood Mooned, this hand's really good. Going to keep Chalice on 0 is a little annoying. Alright, there's a Tomb and a Chalice on 1. I think that hits only Dark Ritual in my deck right now. I do not imprint Dark Ritual this turn. This will just be Saga Petal Pass. Actually, maybe that's not true. Because if I imprint and play Petal, I can trade Petal to hardcast Force of Despair. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Yaw. Yaw. Okay. Den of the Bugbear. And passing. That's very strange. There's a Sheoldred, which I hope is not a pitch card for Force of Despair. But it could end up being that. We're going to go swamp and pass here. Caves of Chaos Adventurer is about the only thing that makes sense for this hand to have been a keep. Fiery Confluence. What are you doing? That's such a bad mode choice. Like, if you want to destroy both of my artifacts, you just deal 2 damage to me, because you're dealing 1 damage to each creature doesn't actually get rid of Urza Saga at all. Yeah, that does not accomplish what you want to accomplish. I floated my mana, I make my construct. So, this is always floating a mana. I get Chrome Mox. I can imprint either Force of Despair or Baleful Mastery. Probably Force of Despair. 1, 2, 3, play a Urza Saga 4. That ends up looking pretty good here. Imprint Force of Despair. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's Sholdred doing Sholdred things. And hit my opponent. They are at 14, down to 12 afterwards with Ancient Tomb in play. And 2 threats. See what you got. There is a Caves of Chaos Adventurer. That is not a problem for me. That is in fact actively good for me. Oh boy, hello. I'm at 22. I do this. This is a 2 mana Baleful Mastery. So this exiles that creature. They draw a card, lose some life. I go to combat. I attack for 6 after no blocks. We will turn that into 7 damage. That puts my opponent to 3. I'll get a swamp out of my deck. And my opponent is dead. That hand was a mulligan from my opponent. Like, they presented a Chalice of the Void and then did nothing of relevance, I should say, until turn 4. I have a weird opening hand here. I think it's a keep, but it's a little weird. It's a touch mana heavier than I would like. This most frequently means Reanimator. I have 4 mana on turn 1, so like, my hand is forced kind of for what I do, but Entomb just comes down faster than what I can do, unfortunately. So I'll Dauthi Voidwalker, my opponent will fetch Entomb. I will be sad. Oh, cool. Am I committed to this Orcish Bowmasters after casting the Dark Ritual? Not the matchup that I thought it was, so Daze is bad here. I'm going to do it anyway. Like, if my opponent does not have Daze, one of these 2 cards living is totally fine for me. Like, protecting the Dauthi Voidwalker is just okay. It's just a disaster if my opponent has both Lightning Bolt and Daze. Thank you. Note, I am fine trading with Force there. It's specifically Bolt plus Daze that is a disaster. Alright, I just need gas off the top. Thank you, deck. Very cool. Okay. Misty and pass. I'm in sort of this awkward spot where if I draw a 3-drop, I probably just have to jam it. But like, this just plays further into Daze, but like, I need to try to catch this Misty if possible. Alright. Here we go. Don't know why they waited until their turn. That's why. Or wait, no, that was... Yeah, they had both of those lands available on their turn. Yep. Let's see if I just lose to a Murktide Regent. Seems like I do. Yep. I basically need exact hits for the rest of the game. I need my opponent to not have a Force of Will. I just lose to Force of Will. I need a Dauthi Voidwalker or a Leyline of the Void. It's like abundantly clear to my opponent that Force of Will is what they need here. And no shuffle, so they presumably found it. I'm at 13. Oh no, there's more. Or is it just... Okay, it's just a fetch around opposition agent. That's fine. This does not change my clock to Murktide Regent. Do I cast this now? Probably because of Daze. Because next turn, if I Play Thoughtseize, draw Dauthi. I need the last mana to activate, and a Daze would stop all of that. It just lets my opponent brainstorm back a Force of Will this turn in a very annoying way. Okay, so take 1. I'm at 12. Bowmasters is 2 points of damage. Lightning Bolt is 3 points of damage. Always dead the following turn. Take the Bolt. Oh wait, the Thoughtseize life loss means that this is just irrelevant. Right? We go to 10, 7, 8, 9, Orc, 10. Yep. So we do this in response. Hit a Murktide Regent. That keeps me alive, but I don't think it matters at all. Like, I go to 1, and I'm not on outs to actually win the game. Yep. Yeah, so my opponent's Bolt Daze just won them that game. Alright, I don't really want Thoughtseize for this matchup. Palantir is slow here. I'm not, like, the most interested in that. I like Plague Engineer. I think I like some amount of this stuff. The Force of Despairs are better if I keep Palantir in. I'm currently thinking on, like, Opposition Agent versus Palantir. I'm going to try cutting Opposition Agents. Or maybe 3 Force of Despair, maybe not the full playset. Or I can trim one of these. I mean, one of those is maybe fine. I don't know, the scrying mode on this is really good. Is this hand actually good, or is this hand a trap? This hand deals an absolutely exceptional amount of damage to me over time. I probably still keep it. We're just going to do a tapped land on turn 1 and pass the turn. Wasteland is an annoyance here. I do have 2 more land drops, but I don't really want to use Ancient Tomb as just infinite self-damage. Like, I wanted to play Bowmasters off of double Crypt. That is not happening. Crypt plus Swamp is fine, though. Baubles are fine. For sure. That one targeted themselves, so they've got a fetch land in hand. And they like the card. Sure. There's the fetch to play around Opposition Agent to the best of their ability. Are we going this route this early? I don't think so. I'd like to cast Sheoldred next turn. I think I will just swamp and pass. Because I have Sheoldred as a follow-up play here, I'm okay doing this play. Alright, cool. Your own Bowmasters. That's fine. It'll be a little bit of a rough daze, but I'm good with it. Let's... Ooh, hold on, this is symmetrical. But also destroy my orc. How do I feel about that? I have mixed feelings about that. I think I'm going to do it, though. Not the prettiest trade for me, but it's fantastic daze bait. We are going to jam Sheoldred here, and if Sheoldred does not work, I am sad, but the hope is that from this point on, I just play an Urza Saga game. How dare you? A little frustrating. Like, Sheoldred is very tough to remove for that deck. That's okay. Hopefully Saga can just carry this game from here. Dragon Rage Channeler is fine. It is a 3/3 currently. Okay, sure. I will imprint Chrome Mox with Dark Ritual here. Specifically, having this Chrome Mox in play means that my Urza Saga token does not die to a Bowmaster trigger. Yep, and that was a relevant decision. Sure. Ooh, everything's coming in. That might mean there's another Bowmaster that I need to play around. I think I'm still just activating anyway. Because there's other things that this could be, like Lightning Bolt, that I just need to get out of my opponent's hand now. I think I'm good with this still. They just make another Urza Saga token and get lifelink next turn anyway, and that's okay. Like, Engineer's not bad. Probably requires a little life loss on my end. I will take the Shadow Spear. I'm not going to be able to equip it this turn, but I do want that. So we Plague Engineer. We will name Orc and take the Bowmaster out of play while lessening the power of this one. Murktide Regent is currently a problem. More? I mean, yeah. Show me what you got. Like, Bowmasters doesn't do the thing Culligan's command. That's very good. And unexpected. Cast. Do this for X is 3. Return 2 things. Done. That's brutal. I'm probably just dead to Dragon Rage Channeler. Culligan's command was very frustrating. Alright, I'm at 2. I have to draw an answer to Dragon Rage Channeler, and I did not. I am dead. I was maximum punished for every single call in this game. Okay, mana's pretty bad with this hand. I can play turn 2 Dauthi, turn 3 Palantir, and Urza Saga, and just play an Urza Saga game that draws me a bunch of extra cards. I am unexcited by this. I don't know that I can justify mulliganing it, though. Hand becomes pretty bad if I lose this land to a wasteland. I don't really care about a lightning bolt or a removal spell. Fetch land. Grief pitching Fatal Push. So I'm about to lose both of my relevant cards in all likelihood. I've lost the Voidwalker first, but I just assume this start is with a reanimate follow-up. Yep. Yeah, so my hand does basically nothing now. I am going to play Opposition Agent next turn rather than lead on Urza Saga this turn, I think. There's an island from my opponent. I'll eat this damage. Hold a turn. Play Saga. And pass. Bowmasters is fine. I'll take some damage. I think I just used this opportunity to cast Opposition Agent. I really don't want my opponent to fetch in response to this card if I play it on their turn. Oh, they just had another regular old land. I'll take the damage from Grief. You can cast Dark Ritual, play another Opposition Agent, and drop another Urza Saga. I'm good with that. And again, I'm trying to do this now to just maximize the chances that these just stay in play. Daze is annoying. Means I give up an Urza Saga token or get an Opposition Agent. Given how many Urza Saga tokens I have in the future, I don't think I care about losing out on one here. I'm going to go no attacks. I think my opponent's playing Death Shadow in all likelihood. I think I'm interested in a double block on Grief. We'll see, though. I mean, thanks for that. I appreciate that. Alright, so my opponent is on Troll Reanimate Nonsense. I'll take an Underground Sea. My opponent does have to do that to put a Murktide Regent into play. Probably beat that. Alright. If I cast Dark Ritual here, things get a little better for me. I'll use 2 of that floating mana to make a construct. I will search up Shadow Spear. We'll play a new Urza Saga. I will make another Urza Saga token. Already made my land drop. So we're good here. No attacks. My opponent can attack with their Murktide Regent, but my construct tokens are going to end up being better in combat in the not too distant future. Alright. So we'll tick up an ability here. We will activate this Urza Saga. We'll go and get a Chrome Mox. We will Chrome Mox and imprint this Opposition Agent. We'll Shadow Spear equip. My opponent conceded. What's going on? Got a weird lag burst there. So this effectively puts me at 14 life. 5, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, at this point, I think I am shoving. Also do this. Get in there, friends. God damn it. There are exactly 2 copies of that in their deck. Alright, they are at 4. And I die to Murktide plus Grief. Frustrating. Like, I knew the deck list. My opponent had 2 outs to not just effectively lose the game on the spot. I can play more safely, but if I do so, I open myself up much more to losing 2 combinations of cards. I guess it's 4. They also had Brazen Borrowers. So I like Plague Engineer on Orc here. I don't think I mind Grafdigger's Cage, because Reanimate is such a huge portion of my opponent's plan. Don't think I'm interested in Force of Despair here. Although I don't know, it is a decent troll countermeasure. I mean, my hope is that with Leyline of the Void and Dauthi Voidwalker that I just invalidate the Reanimator and Murktide Regent side of this deck and have very few things left with that I actually have to deal with. I think I'm going to get rid of Thoughtseize. We need 2 more cuts to play all of these. Maybe just get rid of some opposition agents. I'm going to take a second to parse this one. Double Helm's pretty bad. Wasteland's very good against this hand. My opponent has exactly 2 Fatal Pushes in the main deck that answer an Orcish Bowmasters that's just played out on my turn. Well, I guess they also have their own Orcish Bowmasters. This hand's just kind of frustrating. Because, like, if I can Bowmasters into Plague Engineer, this hand is very good, but, like, the Chromox doesn't imprint these Helms. I think I'm shipping this one. This is fine. I'm using Dark Ritual to power out Palantir on turn 1 with this hand. And then I think I'm imprinting a card under Urza Saga. I'd rather redraw Plague Engineer later. I think I'm putting this back. Alright, here we go. Dark Ritual and Palantir. Alright, it's in play. So I get a card draw every turn. Let's bottom Swamp, top Sheoldred. I am happy with my opponent either taking the damage or giving me the card. Nice. 4 total damage so far. I guess Bowmasters is awkward with Palantir. Hopefully that doesn't matter. I have absolutely gotten maximum punished at every single opportunity throughout this league where I could be punished by a play. I'll bottom that. Dauthi Voidwalker is part of a combo with Helm. I'm going to go ahead and top that. Alright, my opponent does not let me draw a card. Takes 2. Palantir's done 6 damage. Alright, I lose Urza Saga. Do I Dark Ritual to cast Helm? I don't think I do that into a daze. Alright. Things are getting a little weird now. I feel like my opponent lets me draw a card. I'd like to draw Urza Saga. Okay, no, my opponent continues to take the damage. This may just be indicative of them having Bowmasters. This is not great for me. I think I cast Dark Ritual here. It's a little weird. I believe this is correct. We're going to cast a Helm. And if my opponent plays Bowmasters at end step, I can attempt to Helm them for a Bowmasters. Petty Theft. Sure. That occurs. I'll recast that next turn. I'll respond by helming you. Hopefully I hit something. Negative. Just made Murktide Regent easier to cast. Alright. This is Dazable. Force of Willable. Follow-up fetch. Sure. Roll cycle. Yep. Alright, there's a Reanimate on my Sheoldred. And a Murktide Regent. Cool. I assume at this point it's safe to just concede. This is 11 damage plus additional damage in my draw step. That was an absolutely brutal league. All right, so where are we regarding this deck list? I will say this was kind of a shit league. Like, not a single time, I think, in the entire league did I line up a Leyline Helm combo, and it felt like every single time I tried to do something, my opponent just, like, had the exact answer. Don't think I ever got an Orcish Bowmaster trigger from one of my opponents drawing a card. So I think this was just a bad league in terms of my draws lining up okay versus my opponents. And I can recognize that and accept that. Palantir is a little tricky to evaluate based on this league. It's certainly powerful and it did good things, but like your opponent can always choose the mode that they think is worse for you. So as your opponents get better, this card becomes worse as they make the decisions more correctly. I don't think I would play this in a competitive event. I think the Grief Scam package is probably going to be better. Force of Despair was interesting. It definitely did some things throughout this league. But with Chrome Box already in the deck list, there's definitely some tension in making it work, especially since the Palantir is oftentimes one of the non-essential things that can be cut in sideboarded games, and Force of Despair works better if you have some form of card advantage. So I like what's here much better than previously existing Karn decks, but I don't think this is better than having the Grief Reanimate Scam package in your deck. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed. Remember, if you need any sweet cards like Force of Despair, check out Cool Stuff Inc. and use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your order, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. See ya.